So moved. And I guess I'll second. Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions? There's only the two of us, so it's 2. Approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Yes.
Moved. And you can go through Dr. Sanford. Information items.
Do we use the mics? Thank you. I'm honored to be here at my first Education Committee meeting and share with you, on the heels of the board meeting last night, upcoming meetings as well as topics. In forthcoming tomorrow, the 13th of November, we have our Finance Committee meeting. And on Friday of this week, the 14th, we have our Operations Committee meeting. The Finance Committee meeting is at 1 o'clock. Our Operations Committee meeting is at 11 a.m. Tuesday, November 25th, we have our next school board meeting, a committee of the whole, at 7 p.m. And I am going to turn this over now to Mr. Rutz to give us a presentation on our state assessment and a data review in the 24-25 school year.
Thank you and welcome everybody. This is a bit of a follow-up to October 28th's presentation. Got the mic, Michelle, thank you. Get the mic here. October 28th's presentation, which was on our local data, DIBELS, iReady, iExcel. Today I'm going to be presenting on state data. Here we go, where am I, right here. Again, this is a draft here. I'm going to get to the heart of the matter here. So cut through here. There is a table of contents because there are a great number of slides in this slide deck. I want to pause here, as I do every year, that we always share with the public and the board and this group, achievement versus growth. Achievement, and I think of Mr. Ginhart, he talks about this a lot, about being a snapshot, how the PSSAs or keystones are simply a snapshot in time. That's a student's score. An achievement compares the student to a statewide standard. So how all students in Pennsylvania do on the PSSA or Keystone, the student's score or achievement compares to that. We've leaned in a lot to growth the last couple of years, which is the student's improvement. So growth is how much you've improved since the last time you took the PSSA or the Keystone exam, and no matter where your starting score was, growth is often considered a fair component because it compares you only to yourself and prior performance, and that's where we get our PVOS growth. But I know over the years we've leaned into growth, and everyone knows I've said growth before achievement, and today I'm happy I'll be able to share some good achievement news with the group.
Great.
Thank you. Thank you. God bless you, Jeremy. I'll get to PSSA Science in 4 and 8 in a minute, but the assessment data you're going to see generally are grades 3 through 8 math, Algebra 1, Keystone, 3 through 8 ELA, and then Keystone Biology. For PSSA Math, grades 3 through 8, making sure this works. Okay, sorry, I got to go to the board. I'm a teacher. All right, so 44.7% of our students scored proficient advanced. This is a 4% increase year over year from last year. I'm going to save the narrative at the bottom of each slide just so I can get to the data itself. We kept the trend line here so you can see where we've been over the last 10 years. Our achievement is above the state average. We're at 44.7%. We're now above the state average of 41.7% for students in grades 3 through 8 in the PSSA. Algebra Keystone, we had a slight decrease year over year. So our 37.1% of our students scored proficient or advanced. Again, it's a slight decrease from 23-24 to 24-25. But what you will see here is that we are still above the state average. The state average was 31.5% of students statewide are proficient advanced. We're coming in at 37.1%. And you can see our trend line has been going up. So this is a slight dip just year over year. That was achievement. This is our growth. Pardon me with the mouse today. This is our growth, our PVOS growth in our schools with where we are. Generally awesome. We're looking at, we're shining a light on where we are with Algebra 1 at the high school, because you could see that our trend line was going this way. So with that small dip in achievement scores, we're also looking to correlate that with scores generally at the high school. That's for Algebra 1.
So question in
Yes.
this regards, because we see both Klinger and Log actually doing extremely well. What is the cost then for the dip, at the high school?
It could be cohort to cohort. That's one of the things we look at. And remember, data only tells us what happened, not why it happened. So, Mr. Goddixon, that's what we're doing now. Big umbrella is the math capstone report that Hanover is conducting for us right now that will drop in January, which will help shine a light on this as well. I know that at both Log and Klinger, they were both in the blue for Algebra 1 as well. They have a much smaller cohort as well. I think we're talking probably about 40, 42 students, I think, at each middle school, if my memory serves me right. So we're looking at a much larger cohort, whatever is left of the 9th grade class, I would guess, at the high school. It's got to be, Jeremy or Joe might correct me, pushing 400 students. Maybe, so it's a much larger cohort. So we're looking into that.
Whatever happened between 21-22 and 22-23 is pretty impressive.
Yes, well,
In the elementary schools.
yes.
That's a significant improvement.
And part of that is curricular consistency with the Tier 1 curriculum. You're going to see that our math achievement, while we've been great with growth across the board, our math achievement has been ticking up. It's not the only reason. We talk about that a lot in here. There are multiple factors with all of this. But one of the main reasons or main factors is because we've had a Tier 1 core curriculum longer with Eureka Math than we've had with Wisdom ELA in the elementary school. So it's a difference when you're 5, 6, 7 years out with the same curriculum, curricular consistency for students and for teachers who have mastered the curriculum, than it is for something like Wit and Wisdom, where we're only in year 3. Now, we've seen great stuff, as you'll see in a second, from Wit and Wisdom and downstream from English Language Arts, but it does make a difference. Time makes a difference.
So I do have a question on the 24-25 in the elementaries. So it looks like McDonald Willowdale held and improved and did well. Davis dropped significantly, so that's because that's from 100% 2 years in a row to 83.
This is 83% of this whole group. So 83 of our indicators. The fact that they dropped from well above Davis, Mr. Genhart, to meet is something that we shine a light on, we start to explore. Remember that green is good. Green is still good because this means that students met their growth expectations for the year. Obviously, we always want to be above and well above, aim for the top, but the minimum is meets, because meets shows that the student, like me, I'm sitting in 5th grade, I met my growth expectation, going back to achievement versus growth, with the state projected me to grow in 1 year on the PSSA, I've done that. I've accomplished that.
So is it the high school that's, taking the numbers down from 283 from the 100?
This is just of all these indicators, whereas 100% of all of these indicators met or exceeded. In adding this into the average, if my math is right, 83% of these indicators. And again, we started this years ago, obviously, with adding this in, obviously being very low years before the pandemic, but just to give you a greater snapshot. But you can see one change in any of the indicators can have a big effect on the overall average.
So these are all individual cohorts?
Yes, this is just these represent the individual cohorts in that particular year.
We have individual, like the Davis cohorts that did great for 2 years and then kind of dropped off.
This is a
The
new
same cohort.
Their growth was lower than this year's previous year's cohort. Yeah. Again, for the sake of this conversation, it decreased from the year before, but again, we want to keep it at least green or above. So we're there, and again, we will continue to look into, and a cohort can change year to year with a group of students. So that's also a factor as well that we've talked about
Like you
here.
said, it's too early yet to really get into why and what.
Right, we look at
We're
that.
just looking at the numbers right now.
We
but
just look at the
I know
numbers right
why.
now.
Okay.
And remember, I'm reporting out students. I'm reporting out students that have moved on in some cases because this is last year's data. So I've got a 5th grade cohort that's sitting in Klinger right now. For grades 3 through 8 in PSSA English Language Arts, we had a 2% increase. We have 52.8% of our students scoring proficient and advanced. That is above the state average. The state average for last year was 49.9%. So we're above the state average in grades 3 through 8, English Language Arts on the PSSA. Keystone, 59.8% of students were proficient or advanced, which is a 3.2% increase year over year. And you can see the trend line here. The state average for for Keystone Literature, 51%. We're pushing 60% with high school with literature. And for our growth, we ran the table here, 100% in ELA, English Language Arts, meeting their growth, well above for their growth for 24-25. Real quick on the new PSSA test information. We talked about this when we were bringing in Open SciEd for K-8 and that whole process with the Science Task Force. Pennsylvania shifted their PSSA tests from grades 4 and 8 to 5 and 8. So yes, last year our students got back-to-back years in 4th and 5th grade of the PSSA. The 5th grade PSSA science that was given in the spring was a field test. Scores do not count. No scores were reported, so I have no scores to report to you on that. This spring 2026 test in April will be the first year that the state of Pennsylvania will start collecting data on the 5th grade PSSA. We're going to need 3 years of data before we have any kind of longitudinal growth data for our students. That gives us time to learn, deepen, grow with the Open SciEd curriculum in K-8. The biology Keystone exam, for the most part, I shared this to you before this group, to say the state has been vague with information on the Bio Keystone would be an understatement. What we do know, what we've been told, is that it's going to look essentially the same going forward. There were some practice questions or field test questions on last year's test, but those did not get applied toward this score last year for students who took the bio. We did have a slight increase in our biology Keystone scores, up 0.8%, up to 37.5% of students proficient and advanced. That was slightly below, just slightly below the state average, but you can see we've been talking about how we've been trending up in that area. So we're just looking to continue to grow in that area. We've talked years past, the effect that it has had downstream on students, those years of COVID, not having any access with live labs, hands-on science. Things were virtual for a long time, and at least we're starting to see an uptick at this point. Our achievement was up. Our growth was not where we wanted to be with Keystone Bio, but again, we are getting ourselves still in the process of aligned to steel standards in the high school. So we expect this to change for next year. We have revised Earth and Space 1 to be aligned to steel standards, Earth and Space 2 to be aligned to steel standards, and environmental literacy and sustainability to align with the steel standards. So we got those changes coming. We're also, as we talked about before in Ed Committee with our big science rollout, we're going to be moving biology to 10th grade for the 27-28 school year, and that will better align with steel standards and give students an extra year of science, engaging with science before taking the end of course exam. And I don't have any growth data to present because the test last year for 5 and 8 was a field test.
No question, though, and you had no data,
Yes.
but obviously we taught it, you know, so do we have any internal information about where the trend is going?
We do not at this time. We don't have any other, outside of math and reading, we don't do any other internal local assessments of science yet. That's in the plan as we continue. The state has given us a window with our alignment to steel standards and coming out of the science task force, Mr. Goddickson, and some of the recommendations from the Hanover Capstone report. That was one area of need that we're still working on. But finding an avenue to add another assessment platform, given the recent budget environments, has been a bit of a challenge. So we're looking at how we're going to bring that on. But that is a priority because we need to check in these testable areas, not just reading and math, but in science for grades 5, 8, and the bio, what internal local assessments that we have in those areas. So thank you for bringing that up.
Just make a quick observation on the bar graphs.
Do you want me to go back to a certain one, Mr.
Yeah, it
Keeler?
doesn't matter, just any one of them. Go back to one where we did well. So, just coming at this as a layperson and as a, you know, when I used to have my kids in school, being a parent and all, right, when I look at these numbers, I'm looking at proficient or advanced and we're in the, you know, the 40s, 50 something percent. I'm locked in on, I see the word proficient and 40 something percent. So I'm thinking only 40% of our kids are proficient. So I'm thinking about that, that's in my head. And then the fact that we're above the state averages are great, but I think people might still be locked into thinking we're only at 40% proficiency and they're not really getting that. I mean, is there a way to maybe stress that more or do the timing a little differently that people know that, you know, proficient and advanced is, people want those numbers to be higher because they think, well, I want my kid to be proficient. We should be at 100% proficiency. Why are we at 40? But, you know, I don't want it to get buried that we're in most categories, we're doing a lot better.
Yes, yes. Well, if you look at this, and this predates many of us in this room, our high water mark was the year after the new standards.
I'm not saying the numbers aren't good. I'm just saying
Yeah.
the way it's presented.
No, totally.
It might get lost where people are still thinking, locked into that proficiency percentage, and then they don't really lock into what you're saying about how we're doing better.
Understood. Okay, we'll consider that. Thank you. Looking at some subgroups, as we always do, this is our economically disadvantaged. 11 out of 13 or 85% of grade level growth measures met or exceeded growth for economically disadvantaged students. Any areas that you see in yellow or red will most likely align back to algebra or biology, depending on the level. For EL learners, this is a continuing trend. Yes, Ms. Tomlinson, very good, thank you. 100% of grade level growth measures met or exceeded for EL learners. I think we're going on 3 years of 100%, I believe, of meeting or exceeding. Our lowest performing 33% of students, 92%, 12 out of 13 grade level growth measures met or exceeded. The one red area that we see for well below there is just our Algebra 1, again, which we're shining a light on and examining. And then finally, students with IEPs, again, 92%, 12 out of 13 met or exceeded, and I believe that is the same as it was last year when we presented this data, so that's a good trend line that we have there as well. In summary, PSSA math achievement was above last year's level and also above the state level. Algebra 1 had a slight dip, I think it was 2.7%, still above the state average. ELA was both above last year's scores of proficient advanced and above the state average. Same for Keystone Literature. You'll notice with that data that we're seeing a lot of increase of proficient advanced downstream. Students 5th grade afterward coming out of Wit and Wisdom, going into now Wit and Wisdom in 6, 7, and 8, and then eventually going to pre-AP English. even though it's been springboard, but going into pre-AP English in 9 and 10. PSSA Science, we did not have any data on. Keystone Bio did have an increase, but not yet over the state average for last year's scores. I'm not going to read all this to you, but you know that we lean into our evidence-based systems approach in these areas, and just some key takeaways and trends. Mentioned some of the same things during our local assessment data review. We're having systemic success. We have continue our high growth in PVOS, with a lot of areas meeting or exceeding, increasing access and opportunity for all. I love that we're really seeing growth meeting or exceeding subgroups like English language learners, students with IEPs, economically disadvantaged, et cetera. Next steps, some Keystone literature. Keystone performance is mixed. Literature showing strong trend. Bio was, again, raised achievement, still below the state average, but we're working on that systemically as a district, K-12, and looking into Keystone Algebra 1 achievement. Again, as you both mentioned, strong with students taking the Algebra 1 Keystone in 8th grade, shining a light on how we can make improvements for 9th grade. ELA needs continued support. We've given support to math, and we see the dividends of that paying off. Again, I mentioned this before, we're above the state average through ELA, but we have to keep our focus. K-5 is only in year 3. Feels like forever, but it's only year 3 this year. Grade 2 is in their 2nd year. We're implementing in grade 7 this year, and next year is grade 8, so that we'll be fully K-8 in wit and wisdom as a district. Any questions?
Well, one, I mean, we have, half the group, that is the basic and below. What are we doing to really focus on moving those
That is
groups?
all of our intervention programs. That's all of our MTSS programs. That's Walk to Win in K-5. That's our intervention programs in 6-12. And identifying, that's where we lean heavily on our local data, Mr. Goddison. That's where the iExcel and the iReady, given 3 times a year, really plays a part. We've talked a lot about how much growth we'll see when I stand up here and present this in February, when we have our mid-year assessments back from iReady and iExcel, and having our students with our teachers with instruction for 12 to 14 weeks. We've seen the growth of getting them on grade level, and how those tiers 2 and tier 3 start to diminish. And what we've really leaned into the last couple years, you remember coming out of the pandemic, our focus really was on tier 3 and focusing on moving that student group of tier 3 students up to tier 2, which had a very positive effect on our Keystone and PSSA scores. And then last year, the focus turned to what I call the great middle, tier 2 students, and leveraging, again, our systems that we have in place for those. Again, we're at the beginning, it's a marathon, not a sprint, and we're showing, as we did with the local, we're just started with students with their growth and achievement for this year. And it's always important to keep in mind systemically what we're looking at here, because I'm sharing scores with you from last year, right? And it's a bit of a pain, but that points, again, shines a flashlight on where we can improve systemically. And right now, where we're continuing our work is in science. So this is good news, right? To see where we are and see where we've been, and to be able to point out and say, listen, we need to still massage and give some attention to high school science, which is exactly what we're in the middle of doing. So we're getting our ducks in a row there. And while we're not resting on our laurels or anything, we're waiting, really anticipating the Hanover capstone report for mathematics to drop, because just like it did with RELA, just like it did with science, just like it did with social studies, which we're working on now, it's going to create the compass for us on our work over the next 14, 16, 18 months to improve, identify improvements or areas of need in our K-12 math program.
The other thing, you only showed that we were above the state level on, the most recent year. Is there a way to, include that, on the previous year as well?
On the previous year?
So we can see, if we are growing better or just kind of following along with the state.
I can see if I can find that data.
Thank you.
Yes.
Because I think that's a big sign for us to see, where, how much progress we're making.
I don't disagree, just one caveat, that's gonna be a moving target. So for example, this year's average in math, I think I said was 31.5%. I believe last year was 35.5%. So statewide, it's dropped. So it's not gonna be, it'll show us where we were against the state average in that year. That number will still drop or change year to year. Goes up, it goes
But it
down.
might show the growth that, we are presenting, going forward versus,
In that year, correct.
Yes.
Yeah. Great, thank you. This worked out, Michelle, thank you.
Programs and studies. Kappa, right?
It is not loaded up in here. I think it's under 7. Oh, my apologies, because I'm looking in the wrong spot. 7 point what? That looks like it's 4. Okay, you guys good? There's a microphone if you need it.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. I'm very happy to be here with you today to talk about the program of studies for the 26-27 school year. Before we start, I actually want to give a quick shout out to Mr. Wright, who put this together for us. He did a lot of reorganizing and taking a look at, just to make it a little bit more organizational so our kids have an easier time to go through it. It's 89 pages long. So when our students go into that, you want it to be as organized as possible. So thank you for doing that. I think it's going to be a lot easier. The program hasn't changed much from last year, other than we are coming to you with the proposal for 4 new courses for next year. One of them being an AP course, AP Human Geography. We've had this probably in the works for the last 3 years. We've worked with the teachers. We've gone back and forth. We haven't been ready to come forward to the board for approval for that course. We do believe now is the time for that. One of the reasons is because we think this is the course and it's the right time to start offering an AP course for that 9th graders would be eligible for. So we haven't had that opportunity yet. We do believe now we're in a spot with where we are as the changes that we're making in science and the things that we can offer. They don't have to take it in 9th grade, but it'll be an option for them if they were to come in. What's really exciting about that is if our gifted students who are coming out of the middle school can have that option now. So we're really excited about that. Do you have any questions about that course in particular?
You said it's human geography?
Yeah, AP Human Geography. So
I
it's
give up.
it's
What
the
is that?
study of geographic concepts, processes, analyzing things like maps and data, things like that, on a geographic kind of outlook. It's probably, to be honest with you, it's probably one of the more difficult AP courses that are out there. I would put that and probably AP World at the top of probably the 2 hardest AP courses that you could probably take. But the students really pushed this. They wanted the option to take this exam. So we were excited to say, well, let us work on it and see if we can't put something together to bring it. But we do believe that we're in a spot now to offer that. All right, the second course we're coming to you with is Cosmic Journeys, Exploring the Universe. So we're really excited about this because, as you know, we've been working really hard to revitalize the planetarium. And we have not been able to have a course in the program of studies that actually utilizes the planetarium. So this will be the first time, I think, in more than 10 years that we've been able to do this. We have the ability for the teacher to teach it. We have the curriculum already kind of in place. This was something that came forward probably 7 or 8 years ago and was just tabled. And now we're ready to say, okay, now we have this revitalization in how we're using the planetarium. And being it's in the high school, we have the opportunity to use that every day. We anticipate probably 2 sections of this running, no more than probably 25 students in each of those sections. We took a student survey, off the charts. They were like, yes, we would love to have a class like that. So we were excited about putting this together, and I tip my hat to the science department because they really got behind this real quickly, because I think our science teachers in particular want to be in there. The third course that we're bringing to you is something that I find really special to the high school. It's called Educators Rising Program. Althea has been instrumental in getting this off the ground for us. Essentially, just to sum it up, what it is a program that allows students who have an interest in becoming a teacher to start practicing that craft and seeing what that's all about while they're still in high school. Althea, you can certainly add more to that because there is, but that pretty much sums it up.
Absolutely. Last January, I brought to Ed Committee a 3-year proposal to bring aboard Educators Rising. It is a national curriculum, really with the focus of trying to work against the teacher crisis so we don't have enough teachers nationally. This area, we've been very lucky, but we're not seeing as many students go into the teaching profession. And what we have found is that, and research suggests that students who, when they're in high school, say they want to be a teacher, 400% of those students are more likely to actually follow through with those goals of becoming a teacher than in any other career field. So if we can start them now, those students are going to go off to school, and teachers are more likely to go back and teach within 20 miles of where they grew up. And so that is hopefully creating a pipeline for us to have teachers to be part of our ecosystem here in Centennial. And so the program is grant funded currently, and we have 3 years of the curriculum for free. We're hoping that that will continue, that we will continue to be able to get grants to pay for the curriculum and assessments and supplies that will go along with that in order to continue the program and build it as it goes.
Yeah, the only thing I would add to that is she's right. We have a teacher crisis in our country. And the one thing I think this really focuses on, and it's been a priority for me, is to find those students that came out of our system who went on to be teachers and hire them and bring them back. This is a pipeline to that.
It's so interesting because we actually had this conversation, earlier this week, in regards to growing our own teachers and working in that direction. So it's very pleasant to hear this.
Well, and just so you know, last year, it was my first year, we brought in 3 graduates that came from Tenet. They're all working in our building under contract this year. So we're really excited about that.
Yeah, this is incredibly innovative, and I appreciate the work putting something like this in place for a couple of reasons. And I don't have the exact data in front of me, but I remember I was at a presentation a few years ago where I believe there was almost a 76% decrease in the number of teacher certs from, I think it was 2012 to 2021. And in 2022, the state of Pennsylvania emergency certified more teachers than it actually certified. That's a fact. And when you look at our salary matrix, we have a lot of teachers in the bottom right corner, meaning they have many years of experience and they're at the top of the salary scale. And in the next 8 years, thinking about setting the district up for long-term success, we will have probably about 23% of our teachers eligible for retirement. That's a lot of bench strength and a lot of institutional knowledge and a lot of pedagogical knowledge walking out the door. A program like this that you all put together to try to build this and bring students back in is fantastic work.
And the only other thing, I don't know if this is working. The only other thing I wanted to add is that the program also allows students, if they attend Penn West or Slippery Rock afterwards, that they actually can, if they pass a series of micro-credentials, they can actually earn up to 9 credits that they don't have to pay for beforehand. So that's also a great bonus.
Yeah, it's at no cost to them either. That's what's great. So we're excited about that course as well. And then the last one is leveraging technology for business applications. One of the things that I know Joe has been talking about as well is that the state's moving to a requirement to bring in financial literacy as a requirement for all high school students to graduate with. That's going to create a little bit of a shift for us because right now all 9th graders take academic seminar. We're going to be revitalizing that class to meet the requirements by the state for financial literacy. So those academic seminar pieces that we were teaching kids, they have to move to something else. Jeremy's worked with our business department to take a lot of those fundamental things they were getting in that academic seminar class and bolster it and bring it into this course so that way it can be offered to more students 9 through 12. So we're getting ahead of the game a little bit by offering this now, because we didn't want to wait. If we have this in place and kids can start doing it, as we roll in the new financial literacy course, we're ahead of the game instead of behind it, trying to make up for kids who haven't gotten in this yet.
And just to add one more thing with that, this will come along with the students the ability to earn a number of credentials, which will go towards Act 158 completion for our graduation requirements. So it makes it a little more meaningful for students who, depending on what their goals are after high school, if they're going through Pathway 5, they'll be able to go through this process, possibly go through this course, and really have a lot of fundamental skills that will help them later in life too.
Questions?
Absolutely, because we're adding 4 more courses, not necessarily any more students. That means we're going to have less students in some classes. How are we going to accomplish this without adding teachers?
So one of the things we do with staffing, obviously, as you know, when we get to the process for our kids to sign up for courses, some courses every year, Mr. Goddickson runs, sometimes they don't. It's through natural nutrition. So if students don't sign up for a course or we can't run a course because there's not enough in it, that's kind of how we phase it out, rather than just saying to the student body, that's not offered anymore. We've seen that like when we brought zoology on board probably 3 or 4 years ago. Some of the courses that we had in science naturally just faded out because there was more interest in that course. So that's what will happen with some of these new offerings. Probably all, the educator rising programs are kind of a standalone, and so is the AP Geography. You won't have too much impact on that. But the leveraging technology course and the leveraging technology course and the astronomy course, yes, that will be new. But we are also, that astronomy course is really important because we need to get back to utilizing the materials we have in our building. Like we have $1 million thing in our building we don't use. This is an opportunity for us to get back and start using some of that was purchased for that and the reason for that. So we're excited to offer that. That may or may not have an impact on some of our science courses, but it always comes down to how many students sign up for the course. And we make that decision with Dr. Lucaball, with Dr. Zakon, when we come for staffing. And we'll be able to show them those numbers. And that's how we kind of naturally fade some of those out. So and I think of it this way. It's easier to do this way than to say to a student body of 1,800, yeah, we're not offering that anymore. Because then you get a lot of pushback. Well, I loved that course. If they don't sign up for it, they can't come back and say, well, I wanted to take that. Well, you didn't sign up for it. Right? We don't have the numbers to do that.
So when we are putting our, course book, forward, in the spring, will it then say there's going to be a minimum of so many students in order for that particular class to run?
I believe that's written somewhere in policy, so I don't have to put it into this. We don't really put that into program of studies, but that's already written in policy, so we have to abide by that. I think the number's 15.
But how will the student know that,
Oh, well, we tell them that. So once we have the staffing meeting and we're set, our counselors then go back. Let's say that there was a class that won't run. This always happens with some of our AP courses, right? Low numbers, we only have 5 or 6 kids. They'll go back before the end of the year and say to them, hey, we don't have enough students to run this. We have some other options for you. So they'll work that out before they leave. Mr. Wright does a good job of that over the summer too, because there's some classes you go, hey, listen, we thought we were going to have 5 sections of this. We can only run 4 of them now. So there are some students that may have to choose another elective.
And the only other thing I'll add is sometimes we'll run courses in alternate years too. So that might be a situation where, an AP US history course, that's one that sometimes we don't run. What we'll try to do is ensure that students at least have the opportunity to take it. So this year it's running, it may not run next year, things like that.
Yeah, we all do.
Before we move on,
looks exciting. It's
Yeah, I mean, we're really,
good
I mean, to be
courses,
honest with you, we're very excited.
Not a
about
question there.
this. Yeah. Did you have a question?
yeah, well, but, not with this specifically, but before we move on, since we're talking about program of studies, just like to ask everybody's indulgence to just let me throw something out there. There's something that means a lot to me and I really wanted to address in the coming year. Clearly, that's not going to happen. So I'm just throwing it out there to everybody. I would really like us to start investigating expanding our civics curriculum. I think that needs to be done in a big way. I mean, huge. It's, we get it, but it's not enough.
Well, I'm going to let Joe, he's already got an answer for you.
I don't know if I have an answer, but yeah, we're looking at that as part of this. If Ms. Mealy was here, she could speak to it better than I can. We're looking at that through the Social Studies Task Force.
Okay.
And one thing we've talked about is, because it was mentioned in Hanover report, is more civics, where to put that, and adding history or social studies course to the high school. Now, what that would
More actual history, not social studies.
correct, actual history that has more of a civics bent to it. We do have government and public policy that comes in 12th grade, but part of the larger conversation is going to be how are we sequencing the courses we have? Secondary, K-5 is pretty locked in with that social studies, but how are we sequencing courses 6-12, and are we exposing students to more civics? That's near and dear to my heart as well, and that will involve, I don't think it might, I think it's going to reach a point where we have to discuss about adding a 4th credit, possibly or not, or how to realign history standards, content, excuse me, to get students more exposed to civics somewhere more than once between grades 6 and 12.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, because what I'd envisioned was, as important as that is, and it is, a lot of the problem where we stand today is, regardless of where you stand, is because people don't really know enough about
Correct.
how it works.
Yes.
They get led by lies. They don't know how it's supposed to work. What I wanted to try to make happen was I wanted our kids to come out of school to be able to listen to a politician lying to them and say, you're lying to me, and I know you're lying to me because I learned it in school, and I know that's not the way it works. That's the only way we're gonna produce
Yeah, that's the feedback we get through
involved
data.
students and the future leaders, if they know how and why things work,
Absolutely.
how important it is that things work.
Foundations.
Yes.
Yes, no, we're
I just-
Mr. Gennard, we're looking in that. We always have to balance that. This is a reason, not an excuse, but the challenge is always balancing that with state standards, what the state requires, because as Dr. Caracappa just mentioned, they mandated personal finance, which I'm all for, but we have to find a spot for that. And someone who appreciates history like you do, history keeps marching. So to have a course that teaches history, World War II to the present, is a lot longer than when I was in high school. I'll just leave it there.
It was a lot shorter when I was in high school, so, yeah. Well, anyway, thank you for indulging me.
Well, thank you both for your
Thank you.
support. We appreciate it.
Going on to recommendations, I'm kind of questioning why we have, 7.5, because, we would automatically, list the 4 that we have, so I'm just questioning why we put 5 on. Yes.
That's just for everything before it, I believe. That everything before 7.5.
It just doesn't make sense because we will list 7, 1, 2, 3, and 4, it's automatically, it just does not make any sense.
By default, they're getting moved on, so.
But other than that, I am in favor of moving all 4 items forward,
Also,
passing 2-0. And that takes us to the end. Next meeting is going to be January 14th. No meeting in December, I guess. Thank you. We are adjourned.